The early morning sun spread its golden wings across the small village by the gentle, winding river. Mist clung to the banks like a delicate veil, and the water shimmered with a quiet brilliance, reflecting the fragile beauty of a world just waking up. At this hour, the entire land seemed suspended in hushed expectation, as if nature itself were holding its breath, waiting to see what the day might bring. In this secluded place far from the bustle of large towns lived families bound together by tradition and shared memories. Old wooden houses stood in neat rows, their faded roofs a testament to generations of stories. Some were patched with mismatched shingles, others newly painted, all forming a tapestry of life's ups and downs. Wooden fences, carefully mended over time, encircled vegetable gardens bursting with the green of morning dew. Fruit trees hung low with ripe guavas, bananas, and mangoes, perfuming the warm air. Chickens scampered across dusty paths, pecking at stray seeds while curious children chased them with squeals of delight. The village had no name on any grand map, nor was it known for great monuments or legendary feats. What truly defined it was the simple spirit of resilience shared by its people. They woke at dawn to till the fields, mend fishing nets, or open their little shops along the single dirt road that curled around the river bend. Life was humble here, but not without love or unity. Neighbors exchanged friendly waves in the morning, and gossip blended with laughter in the evenings. A sense of communal warmth was woven into every day. Yet, behind the cheerful smiles, there was also a tangible struggle. Earnings were modest, and the unpredictability of seasons' floods, storms, droughts could wipe out a year's work in mere days. Most families, though grateful for their modest livelihoods, lived on the edge of worry. Hope and anxiety existed side by side. This village had seen many generations come and go. Parents passed on their skills farming, carpentry, pottery to their children, who then passed them on to the next line. The stories told around the fire at night were mostly about perseverance, survival, and gratitude for small blessings. Superstitions lived alongside faith, a whisper of old folktales about guardian spirits in the trees or miraculous sightings along the river. Whether such stories were true or not, they underscored the belief that life's mysteries ran far deeper than what one could see on the surface. It was here, in this quiet corner of the world, that a man named Min had built his life. A skilled woodworker with an eye for detail and a patient hand, Min's workshop echoed daily with the sound of saws and the aroma of freshly cut timber. Though he carved beauty out of wood, his personal life wasn't as smooth or meticulously crafted. He wrestled with financial pressures, societal expectations, and the nagging feeling that somehow, his life could be more than it was. When the first rays of morning light reached Min's shop, they found him hunched over his workbench. He meticulously polished a half-finished chair, his mind already crowded with thoughts of unpaid bills, a leaky roof at home, and the worry that he might not secure enough orders to sustain his family. He felt trapped, as though the world were pressing in on him from all sides. Yet, unknown to Min, a change was about to ripple through the fabric of his life. A chance encounter would soon challenge everything he believed about his own limitations and the nature of reality itself. The arrival of a mysterious old man, seemingly an ordinary traveler, yet brimming with an otherworldly wisdom, would become the catalyst for a remarkable transformation. The old man's name, his origins, or the precise nature of his knowledge were mysteries. But the words he spoke about the power of thought, the role of positivity, and a secret law that governed the world would set Min on a journey of discovery that would eventually shape not only his destiny, but the fate of the entire village. This is the story of how the magic of believing, of harnessing hope and focusing on the good, unfolded in one small place by the river. It is a story of resilience and the quiet miracles that blossom when one dares to dream beyond the confines of fear. As we begin, let your mind drift to that humble village at sunrise, where the scent of sawdust mixes with the sweetness of ripening fruit, and where new possibilities float on the gentle breeze. Little did the villagers know that the old man, with his silver hair and radiant eyes, was about to rewrite their understanding of life. And least of all did Min suspect that the secret he would learn could overflow the boundaries of his small home, eventually touching the hearts of many far beyond the village itself. Min was born into a family of modest means. His father was a fisherman, and his mother grew vegetables, selling them in the village market each morning. As a child, Min had no grand toys or fancy books. Instead, his imagination thrived in the fields and along the river banks. He spent long afternoons carving small boats out of broken branches, letting them float downstream as the sun warmed his back. Though life was never luxurious, Min's world was rich in natural wonders and the gentle guidance of a tight-knit family. As he grew older, however, reality's weight settled upon his shoulders. His father's health declined due to long years braving turbulent waters. Fishing brought in less money as the local river's fish populations dwindled. Min discovered he had a knack for working with his hands, particularly with wood, and chose to become a carpenter, hoping he could craft a stable future out of simple planks and nails. He began as an apprentice in his teenage years, learning to cut mortise and tenon joints, shape sturdy chairs, and craft decorative details with chisels. Precision and patience became his mantra. Every shaving of wood that curled off his plane felt like a lesson in meticulousness. He learned to read the grain, to sense where the wood's strength lay, and to coax beauty out of seemingly unremarkable lumber. Over the years, he built a reputation for reliability, honesty, and artistry. The name Min the woodworker was spoken with respect in the village. He repaired broken doors, crafted new tables, and designed elaborately carved bed frames for newlyweds. Despite his skill, however, his finances remained precarious. People in the village did not have deep pockets, so payments were humble at best. Sometimes, he was compensated in kind like sacks of rice or fruit instead of cash. During storms, his shop's roof often leaked, damaging expensive boards. It was a never-ending cycle: earn money just in time to pay off pressing debts, only for another emergency to arise. There were days men wondered if he had made a mistake in choosing this profession. Perhaps a city job would have afforded him more stability. Yet his heart remained loyal to his craft. Woodworking was more than just a way to earn a living. It was, in many ways, an extension of his soul. Each finished piece was like a story told in polished grains, a testament to the harmony between man and nature. He found solace in the rhythmic scraping of the plane, the smell of sawdust that tickled his nose, and the steady beat of a hammer driving nails home. And so, early every morning, he could be found in his humble workshop, perched on a small rise near the river. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the wooden walls, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The back door opened onto a patch of tall grass that swayed gently in the breeze. He kept a battered stool near the threshold, where he could pause and watch the flowing water whenever his worries grew too large. One day, as he was smoothing the edges of a small wooden chest, an order placed by a young couple about to be married, he couldn't shake the sense of dread coiling in his stomach. He was late on rent for the workshop's land. Rumors that the landlord was considering selling the property had reached his ears. If that happened, men feared he'd have nowhere else to go. Even if he found a new place, how would he afford the move? "All I do is work," he sighed under his breath. "But it's never enough." The frustration weighed on him. He remembered how, as a child, he believed wholeheartedly that if you just worked hard and stayed kind, good fortune would follow. Now, at 30-something, that belief felt naive. Hard work alone hadn't solved his problems. He wondered if there was some key ingredient missing, some piece of knowledge or approach that could elevate his efforts from meager subsistence to genuine prosperity. That evening, he returned to his small home, where the windows rattled whenever a strong wind passed. His wife, Lan, greeted him with a weary smile. She had been cooking a simple vegetable stew over a small hearth. Their son, little Tien, rushed up, waving a handmade kite crafted from leftover fabric and thin bamboo strips. "Papa, Papa, look what I made!" Tien exclaimed, eyes brimming with excitement. Min's heart softened. Bending down, he examined his son's creation with genuine admiration. "This is wonderful," he said, running his calloused fingers along the frame. "We can fly it this weekend if the wind is right." Lan set the table with care, placing bowls of steaming stew and a small plate of salted fish. The meal was modest, but the glow of family warmth made it precious. Min took a moment to appreciate the simple abundance in his life: his wife's kindness, his child's curiosity. But then, the nagging thoughts of unpaid bills came creeping back. As they ate, Tien chattered about the kite, about how high it might fly, about the shapes in the clouds. Meanwhile, Lan cast sympathetic glances at Min. She knew money troubles clouded his mind. After putting Tien to bed, they sat outside on their small porch, the night sky a blanket of glittering stars overhead. "Any new orders?" Lan asked softly. "A few," Min replied, fiddling with a small splinter of wood that had caught beneath his nail. "But it's never enough to get ahead. I feel like I'm always chasing, always worried." Lan reached for his hand. "We have to believe things will get better." Min managed a small smile, though doubt weighed on him. The love between them was real, yet he felt guilty that he couldn't offer Lan the kind of life he believed she deserved. That night, he barely slept. He tossed and turned, haunted by the question, is this all there is? He had never been one to expect riches or luxury, but he yearned for a more secure life, a house free from leaks, enough money to send Tien to a good school, perhaps even the ability to hire an extra hand in the workshop so that he could rest once in a while. He was unaware that destiny was weaving threads in the background, aligning a series of events that would alter his perspective forever. In the darkness before dawn, as he stared at the moonlit cracks in the ceiling, Min couldn't have imagined the extraordinary visitor who would soon arrive in his workshop, nor the conversations that would seed hope in him like never before. The day began like any other. Pink and orange hues spread across the sky, and the village awoke with a familiar bustle. Men and women went about their chores, children scrambled about playing games, and the air rang with roosters crowing and the faint clang of metal pots. Min made his way to his workshop with a determined stride, shaking off the lingering fatigue. He told himself that today he would focus on the tasks at hand, finishing the chest, perhaps starting on a new table design. He had no choice but to press onward. He was sanding a delicate curved edge on the lid of the chest when he heard an unfamiliar voice call his name. The voice was neither loud nor demanding, yet it carried an odd resonance that made Min's ears perk up. He set down his sandpaper and turned around. There, framed by the doorway, stood an elderly man with a silver-white beard and kind, smiling eyes. The man wore a simple, loose-fitting robe of faded earth tones, as though he had traveled from a place where style was less important than comfort. He carried a small knapsack slung over one shoulder, the fabric worn and patched in multiple places. If a breeze blew too hard, it looked as if it might topple him, yet something about his posture was surprisingly strong. Min wiped his hands on a rag. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" A serene expression graced the old man's face. He stepped inside, glancing appreciatively at the neatly arranged tools and stacks of wood. "I've heard of a talented woodworker in this village," he said. "I believe you're the one I'm looking for." Min felt a surge of pride mixed with curiosity. Clients usually arrived through word of mouth, but he had never seen this stranger before. "That would be me, indeed. My name is Min." The old man nodded. "My name is Dai." His gaze swept over the half-finished chest. "May I look around?" Min gestured politely. "Of course. Please feel free." Dai walked slowly, pausing to admire various pieces: an intricately carved bedpost leaning against a wall, a stack of boards carefully planed and ready for crafting, the chest in progress. With each step, he ran his weathered fingertips across the wood as if reading a secret script etched into the grain. There was a certain calmness in his demeanor, a deliberate slowness that seemed out of place in a world that hurried and worried. "I sense your devotion in these pieces," Dai remarked quietly, turning toward Min. "It's good to pour oneself into one's craft." Min nodded, a bit disarmed by the man's gentle insight. "It's all I know." Dai offered a small, almost cryptic smile. "Is it really all you know?" Unsure how to respond, Min let out a polite chuckle. "I suppose there's more to life than woodworking, but it's my livelihood." "Livelihood? Yes. But also an expression of creativity and love," Dai said. He paused near the chest, running his hand along the lid. "Beautiful. A gift for newlyweds." Min's eyebrows rose. "Yes. How did you?" "I can sense the joy in it," Dai answered. "Items meant for weddings or births often carry a brighter energy." He winked, as if letting Min in on a small secret. People pour their hopes for the future into such pieces. Though the explanation was a bit mystical for Min's pragmatic mind, he felt a sudden warmth in his chest. The old man's presence, while unusual, was undeniably comforting. "I do try to make each piece special," Min said, feeling somewhat shy about admitting his pride in his work. Dai nodded thoughtfully. "You succeed. But I also sense you are troubled. Your spirit feels weighed down by worry." The words struck a chord. Min looked away, blinking back the sting of unexpected emotion. Usually, he kept his problems hidden behind a reserved exterior. I suppose everyone has worries, he managed, trying to remain polite. The old man's eyes narrowed in gentle concern. True. But not everyone carries them so heavily. Your heart is burdened in a way that dims your creative spark. Min felt a wave of embarrassment, as if the old man had peered into the secret corridors of his mind. Well, it's nothing you need to concern yourself with, sir. Times are a bit tough, that's all. I'll manage. Dai stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Min's shoulder. His touch was light but steady. I once struggled too, my friend, he said softly. But I found a secret that changed everything. Would you like to hear it? Min swallowed. He thought of politely declining. After all, he had no clue who this old man really was, but something about the gentle confidence in Dai's voice intrigued him. I'm listening, he said, crossing his arms in an effort to appear composed. Dai lowered himself onto a nearby stool as though he belonged there, and gestured for Min to take a seat as well. With some hesitation, Min did. The old man leaned forward. There is a law that shapes our world, he began, speaking as if imparting an ancient truth. It's not a law of man-made origin, but rather one woven into the fabric of existence. Some call it the law of attraction. It suggests that our thoughts, be they fears or desires, act like magnets, drawing experiences into our lives that match those thoughts' vibrations. Min's expression revealed both skepticism and curiosity. That sounds a bit mystical, he admitted. Dai nodded, unfazed. Yes, it can seem that way. But think of it in simpler terms. When you focus on negativity, fear, lack, resentment, you tend to find more reasons to feel negative. Conversely, when you choose to focus on positivity, gratitude, possibility, hope, you begin to notice opportunities and solutions you might have overlooked before. Min mulled this over. He had heard snippets of similar ideas. Some folks in the village believed in luck and positive thinking, but never had it been presented so directly. So you're saying, if I think about success, I'll just magically get more orders and more money? Dai smiled gently. It's not magic in the sense of conjuring gold out of thin air. It's more about alignment. When you consistently cultivate a mindset of abundance, you start making decisions and taking actions that align with abundance. Your energy, so to speak, becomes inviting to new opportunities and connections. Min couldn't help but let out a small laugh. The practical side of him found this borderline silly, yet another part of him desperately wanted it to be true. That's interesting, he finally said. But how can I just stop worrying about real problems? My rent, my bills, they're very tangible. Thinking happy thoughts won't pay them. Dai nodded in understanding. It's a common misconception that one must ignore life's realities to be positive. But ignoring reality isn't the goal. Transforming it is. Gratitude and positive thinking can exist alongside practical problem solving. In fact, they often enhance it. When you're not weighed down by fear, your mind is clearer, more creative in finding solutions. Min remained silent, unsure how to respond. Part of him yearned for a piece of hope to cling to. He thought about the nights he lay awake, imagining one disaster after another. That negativity had never helped him solve anything, it only exhausted him. You have nothing to lose by trying, Dai said quietly, as if reading his mind. And a great deal to gain. Outside, the sound of a bicycle bell rang as a neighbor pedaled by, greeting them with a wave. The warmth of the late morning sun seeped in through the open door, dust motes glowing like tiny orbs. Dai rose from the stool, picking up his knapsack. I'll leave you with this thought, he said. Every creation begins first as a vision in your mind. The same is true for the life you create. If you can envision a better life and nurture that vision with belief and gratitude, you'll start seeing changes. Write down what you want. Focus on the positive aspects of your current life, and watch how the world responds. Min stood, nodding politely but still feeling a swirl of disbelief and curiosity. Thank you, Mr. Dai. Dai turned at the doorway, giving Min one final smile. I will return to see how you're doing. Until then, keep your thoughts clear, your heart open. And with that, the mysterious old man was gone, leaving Min alone with 1,000 questions. The workshop seemed quieter without Dai's presence. It was as though a breeze of possibility had swept in and then vanished, leaving behind a sense that something in Min's life had just shifted, perhaps imperceptibly, but shifted nonetheless.